Welcome, Negronis with Nord, episode number 33. I am back from Mexico. I made it home against all odds. I lost my passport 7 a.m., well, probably about 6:50 in the morning. We were supposed to leave the house at 7 to drive the hour and a half from Tulum to Cancun, and then I was flying out to New York. So 10 minutes before we were supposed to leave, I can't find my passport, pulling the house apart. Quickly realize, you know those moments when you like lose something and you know instantly like it's fucking gone. Like I can look all over this house, but like it was in my briefcase. I had been in my briefcase, that's where my camera was, a bunch. I hadn't seen it, and I just like instantly realized that I hadn't seen it since I got into the house and I didn't have it. So I'm like, fuck it, let's go. I'm, searching on the way to the airport. Can you fly without a passport? Everyone's like, no, of course you can't. Like, you cannot fly internationally without a passport. I was like, I am getting my ass back home. I am not sitting in Mexico for another day or two, flying to Mexico City, going to the fucking embassy, getting my mom to probably like overnight my birth certificate or something so I can get an emergency passport. I was like, this is gonna be thousands of dollars. And ultimately, like, I just wanted to be home. I get to the airport, I go to check in, they're like, passport? And I was just like, about that, yeah, like I don't have a passport. But I am having a medical procedure tomorrow. I have to get back to New York. I have to. I don't have my passport. I can't delay it. You have to get me onto this plane. I don't even know if I would have to make up that lie, because they were just kind of like, we don't really give a shit. Like, we'll put you on the plane. Ultimately, what happens to you when you get back to America isn't our problem. And luckily, when I landed back on American soil, they also didn't seem to really care that much. They were surprised that somebody let me on the plane without the passport. All's that to say, anything is possible. And don't let people tell you that if you are stuck in a foreign country without a passport that you can't leave, because it's just not true. I am speaking on this panel for Business of Fashion tomorrow, which is last week once y'all see this video. It is partially expanding on an article that they wrote about brands working with more influencers who have day jobs. One, it is interesting that there is still this idea that like being an influencer isn't an actual job. So sometimes people talk about it like, oh, brands want to work with influencers who have actual jobs, which is like actually a little bit offensive and up. But the core of what they're trying to say is they want to work with people who are working in an office, who have an office professional kind of 9-to-5 normal job. Maybe it's press. The press wants to spin this into a big story. They want to say that this is about people becoming sick of influencers and influencers becoming less authentic, and them wanting to be centered in following people that have a life that's like theirs. And that's like mostly bullshit. But there is interesting insights of why this is happening, because we definitely have brands who are looking for influencers who have day jobs, normal jobs. The reason is how much it can help in storytelling. In our kind of 10 ambassador rules, which we have talked about ad nauseum on this show, one of them is this idea of like you have to have love or a story. So like if I did a post for Campari and I was like, hey y'all, this is super exciting because y'all know I drink Negronis all the time. Negronis are my bloodstream. This is amazing that Campari has finally acknowledged my existence and wants me to do a sponsored post for them because I am a living and breathing ambassador, and y'all would be super excited. You'd be like, congratulations. Also, side note, kind of fucked up that they just had a big event at Fashion Week. I didn't get invited. Personally, with my life and with this fucking company, I must buy 200 bottles of Campari a year. VIP customers, people spending probably $100K to $500,000 a year, if not more. I digress. You have to love the brand, like I do Campari, right? And then that makes it authentic, right? People understand why you're doing the post. Now, if you don't love the brand already, you need to have a story. And what we mean by that is that, what we're trying to do with our followers, like what we're trying to do when we are building a sponsored post is cross what we call an authenticity gap. Authenticity gap is that feeling that you have when you see someone doing a sponsored post and the first thing that you think is, this is bullshit, you're being paid for this, you don't mean this, right? And it is our job, and it's your job, and it's the content's job to bring the audience across that gap. to get them to believe you. There's no authenticity gap when I'm talking about Campari. Y'all know I love Campari. So I don't have to tell some big fucking story about how great Campari is and all this, because I talk about it all the time. I drink Negronis. You know that, like, the authenticity gap doesn't exist. But if I am doing a sponsored post for, let's say, a non-alcoholic aperitif, okay, well now I have to tell a story. I can't just be like, y'all know I love Gia. I don't even know how to pronounce that thing. I wouldn't drink a non-alcoholic aperitif, but
Gia with the girlies.
let's assume I did. You have to tell some kind of story that connects you to this brand in some way. Let's keep this example. I'm just going to do this on the fly, right? If I'm doing a post for a non-alcoholic aperitif, I could be like, look, y'all know I love drinking. I do. That is a truth. I love having a cocktail. I love the process of making a drink. I love that you can sit and have a cocktail with friends, with my fiance, and sit and talk about the day. I love that. Again, now I'm doing a sponsored post for a non-alcoholic aperitif, right? But I'm also getting old, and I am trying to balance running a 100-person company, exercising every day, and, you know, not being unhealthy. You can love something too much, right? And like, I don't want to be drinking every night. I have been using this non-alcoholic aperitif a few days a week to be able to get the like feeling of having a cocktail with people without the side effects of having that cocktail, right? And now I have like taken a story, which is like my life as an entrepreneur and as somebody that likes to exercise and somebody who loves cocktails, and I've connected it to something that I've never talked about before, which would be a non-alcoholic aperitif. And why brands like working with people with normal jobs is it gives you more ammunition to tell those stories. Newly is a recent client of ours, and they actually work with one of our employees here, Sophie, who's been on the show. With Sophie, she can tell the story that a lot of the people who are Newly customers are experiencing, right? That like she has to go into the office, she's got work events, she's got friends' birthdays, all of these different kind of scenarios she needs to dress for, and that Newly is giving her a way to do that without buying the clothing. And like, it's authentic because they know she has a job, they know she's going to the office. And so unlike a full-time influencer, Sophie is experiencing some of the challenges that Newly solves for in a way that is super relatable for the audience, right? Because if you're a full-time influencer, you can tell the same kind of story of like, look, I have to photograph my fucking clothes every goddamn day, and it's a huge pain in the ass, and it's expensive, and Newly is there to help me do that. But that's like not a relatable story for people that are not influencers necessarily, right? It is like, certainly maybe that person is like showing the wide array of like great outfits you can get from Newly, but they're not relating it to people's lives. And I think that's what brands are looking for. It's whether you are a new mom, or you've just moved across the country, or you have a full-time job, or you're a chef, or you know, you like to juggle in your spare time. Whatever it is that as brands are telling more and more stories on social through influencers, we need more ways to tell that story. We can't tell the same story over and over and over and over again. And so we need that variability of stories that we're telling. We look for someone who's a chef. We look for somebody who works at TikTok and has a following. You know, we look for these stories that help us, you know, vary the brand story that we're telling, and the kind of engine that is driving those stories. So what can you do, right? As an influencer, full-time is not that you should go out and get a full-time job so that brands will work with you. It's that you should be really explicit about what the different avenues are where you could tell stories, and make sure you talk about that stuff so you come off on social as multifaceted as you are in real life, right? Like, again, you talk about that stuff a lot, and then brands can kind of figure out how they're going to fit into that. So I think the takeaway is, you know, trying to be your full self. Look, don't be afraid to talk about things that you are interested in that maybe you feel like your audience won't be, because those will definitely help brands understand how to tell a deeper, more interesting story, even if your audience doesn't immediately connect with it. So that's the show. As always, Send us questions, and we will see you next week. Other Mexico story, and this is just a PSA for all y'all. First of all, the speed limit in Tulum is 12 miles an hour. Okay, I shit you not, that's not an exaggeration. It's 20 kilometers an hour, like in the main strip. I don't know if you've ever driven 12 miles an hour. It is really, really slow. So, and you know, the house is 8 miles from the beach and you're driving 12 miles. It's like 45 minutes to get down there. So they do that obviously so that you speed. So we were going like 15 or something, right? And we get pulled over. They're like, they take the license. They're like, we're not giving, you know, you got to come down to the police station or you can just give us money. How much money do you have? That was mistake one, you know, that I think we had said something that like $250, or they had mentioned it and we were like, yeah, we have that. If we had 20, they probably would have taken that. So we give them the $250 and we drive on. I shit you not. 1 minute later, we got pulled over again. The cop comes up and it's like, hello, and me and my little brother in the front seat were like, absolutely not. Your like buddy just stole $250 from us like literally a minute ago. Why don't you just go back there? You can split the money he just stole from us with him because like we're not fucking doing this again. And he let us go. Now, in Tulum, Cancun, generally that area, there is a law, something like Section 241, where if you were a tourist and you don't like kill somebody, your first 2 times you get pulled over, they're not allowed to charge you or give you a ticket. If you just look that law up, screenshot it on your phone in Spanish and in English, if you get pulled over, show it to them. Apparently that works. They are trying to crack down on the police extorting tourists. The way we dealt with it is we, like assholes, drove literally 12 miles an hour around Tulum the whole time as like people are like laying on their horns, flying by us, being like, why are you going 12 miles an hour? It's like, because that is the speed limit they've created to trap tourists and extort them. So anyway, don't pay the bribe, do pay the bribe. Ultimately, like, it's illegal for them to take the bribe. So if you go to the police station, you haven't done anything, like they're not gonna take you to the police station. You know, they're counting on you not wanting to play chicken with the Mexican police department while you're on vacation. So it's up to you, you know, how hard you wanna play this. But anyway, we can talk about Instagram and TikTok and social media now.